Okay, we have this chabura every Tuesday morning to try to develop within ourselves the kaichos and the hashkafos that we need to be able to build beautiful homes. And in general, my approach is that what takes place in this room, there's no call-ins and there's no recordings. You can take notes if you want. I spoke to a guy recently married. He was still referring back to his notes. He was saying back to me word for word what I said in Tuesday morning Shiurim as he's navigating his marriage from notes that he took. That's fine. Some guys taking notes is a distraction from what's going on. You have to know your personality. But in general, there's no call-ins and no recordings. And the reason for that is because I don't want to, I don't want to tell myself, I'm not going to say this, I don't want it to get out. I want to be able to be honest and open and vulnerable and clear and realistic and down to earth as much as possible. This particular shiur right now I am recording. This is going to be a little bit of an introductory shiur, so I thought it was appropriate. We have Talmidim not in this room. They very much appreciate if we can take advantage to record a shiur now and then, and that's what I'm going to do for this shiur. But in general, this is a private shiur. Not to say that there's anything going on in this room that Gedolei Yisrael and Rabbanim and Rosh Yeshiva would disagree with. It's not at all. In fact, Adarabah, the few Rabbanim and Rosh Yeshiva that I've shared with that I do this, they push me very, very hard to keep going, and they express to me that they wish that shiurim like this existed in other yeshivas. But still, the nature of what we're talking about, marriage, occasionally we speak about intimacy, relationships, those types of conversations are be'etzem, by nature, they're private conversations, and to say them in a way that they wind up on the web just takes away from the privacy and the dignity and the cover that such a conversation needs. But what I want to do today is I want to get to the core issue, this foundation of everything that affects a marriage. And I'm talking about something that's so dramatic that when a couple comes into my office to speak about an issue, I could tell within the first 3 or 4 minutes if they have this yesod or if they don't. And if they have it, it's one level conversation. And if they don't have it, it's a whole different level conversation. Let me start with speaking to you about Rosh Hashanah. I know you may think that Rosh Hashanah has nothing to do with building a home, but the truth is that the conversation about Rosh Hashanah has a lot to do with building a home, because Rosh Hashanah is the day of the Binyan Ha'olam. The world was created on Rosh Hashanah, and in a person's life of their Avodas Hashem, Rosh Hashanah is the day of the Binyan Ha'adam. It's the first day in building ourselves. So when I want to build a home, and this is so important to know, when I want to build a home, I'm not just getting married, but I am building a world. This is a world. You all grew up in different worlds. Some of those worlds were wonderful, embracing worlds, and some of those worlds were complex and difficult worlds. But when you grow up in a home, you're growing up in a world. You ever speak to a friend and you're talking about stuff and you realize, we may have lived even in the same neighborhood, but this guy's from another planet because he didn't grow up in the same world that I did. And so it's important to understand, if we're talking about building a home, we're talking about you're literally standing at the beginning process of building a world. So the Navi tells us in Sefer Nehemiah that when Klal Yisrael came back to Eretz Yisrael, the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael were tremendously deprived of a Torah chinuch, and they knew nothing about what it says in the Torah. And Ezra HaSofer came back with the Talmidei Chachamim from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, and they took out on Rosh Hashanah, they took out a Sefer Torah, and they started to lay the dinim of the Torah. Now these Yidden were so distant from knowledge of Yiddishkeit that they were married to Goyim. Okay? And they started to read from the Sefer Torah, the dinim of the Torah. You're not allowed to marry Goyim. And they realized the tremendous churban that was caused from their lack of knowledge and lack of information. And they started to cry on Yantif. they started to cry and to sob and to feel such charata. They were doing tshuva. And Ezra said to them that this is not a day for crying. And he sent them to eat their suda b'simcha. And he said to them, Perek Ches in Sefer Nehemiah, if you want to look it up, he said to them, L'chu ichlu mashmanim, go eat delicious food. Ushasu mamtakim, and drink sweet drinks. V'shilchu manois le'einochain le, and send gifts to those who don't have. And then he said, it says, do not be despair, do not feel bad, ki chedvas Hashem hi ma'uzchem, because the joy of Hashem is your strength. Such a unbelievable statement of acceptance of tshuva and the joy of Rosh Hashanah. We do this every year. We beg for our lives on Rosh Hashanah, and then we go and eat a suda. You have to realize what that means. There's a certain bitachon that we have. We finish our tkiyas, we finish Musaf on Rosh Hashanah. We're like, okay, let's party. What do you party? You were just in court, begging for your life. Yeah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me. I did the job. Ki chedvas Hashem hi ma'uzchem. Now I'm going to rejoice with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The question that jumps out of this pasuk is, what does it have to do with Shalach Manas? V'shilchu manos le'einach, send gifts to people who eat. It's a wonderful thing to send gifts to people. But why is it that in the chizuk of Rosh Hashanah, go enjoy your suda, does he say send gifts to people? What's the inyan of shilchu manos le'einach? Like Yitzchak Hutner Zecher Tzadik Avracha, in the Sefer Pachad Yitzchak on Rosh Hashanah, he starts the Sefer with this. Just to understand how fundamental the question is, the beginning of the Sefer, the first question in the Sefer, Maimer Aleph, Ois Aleph, is this question. And the Yesod, I'm not going to spend time going through the whole Shtikl Torah. That's not what we're here for now. That's for another time. But the Yesod is as follows. The Yesod is that Hashem runs His world with many different midos. Right? There are many different kaichos and midos with which Hashem runs His world. Hashem, Kel Racham V'Chanan, Erech HaPayim, Rav Chesed V'Emes, Noitzer Chesed La'alofim. There are different midos of Hashem, right? Sometimes Hashem employs the midah of Chesed. Sometimes He employs the midah of Emes. Sometimes He employs the midah of Erech HaPayim. Hashem uses different midos in running His world. But there's one midah that's not just the midah that Hashem runs His world with. It's the midah that Hashem created the world with. Very important to understand that, and I'll explain why in a second. The midah that Hashem created the world with is the midah of Chesed. It's a Beferish Pasuk, Tehillim, Kapitel Pei Tes, Olam Chesed Yibana. The world was created with Chesed. What does that mean that the world was created with Chesed? What that means is that the purpose of the creation of the world, as the Mesilas Yesharim says in the beginning of the Sefer, it's important to know. I get this sometimes. I sit with groups of guys, and I'm like, why are we here? Why did Hashem create us? What are we doing here? You have to ask yourself that question at some point in your life, like, after all the different details of life, but what am I doing here? What's the point? Right? What's the point? And a lot of times guys will say, I'm here to serve Hashem. And I'm like, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't need any help. Hashem wasn't like, I can't get anything done. What should I do? Let me create a Klal Yisrael. They'll help me out. That's not what happened. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Shalom, B'tachlis HaShleimus. One of the foundations of our emunah is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need anything. Okay? So why am I here? Certainly my job is to serve Hashem, but why did Hashem create me to serve Him? He didn't need me. The answer is, does anyone know? So we can earn our spot in Olam Haba. Why? Because Hashem wants to give good things to us. Hashem created the world because He is a giver. He's a Baal Chesed. He's a giver. And a giver wants to give. And Hashem created people so that He can give them. You know why you exist? You exist so that you should have the most incredible schar, joy, and pleasure possible. That's why you exist. Okay, there's a little bit of a journey to get there. Adam Arishan did a chait, he made things a little more complicated. Klal Yisrael did the egel, they made things a little complicated. There's a journey here. But you want to know why you're here? You're here to be a recipient of Hashem's kindness. That's it. Hashem loves us, Hashem created us, so that we should get tzar. L'nivra ha'adam elo lehis'anag al Hashem. A person was created to receive joy. Now let's think about this for a second. This is this may sound to you like we're talking philosophy, and I am going to argue that we're not talking philosophy, we're talking halacha l'maisa every day of your life. This is halacha l'maisa. Why? Because we have a mitzvah that our job in this world is to imitate Hashem. You hear that? Our job in this world is to imitate Hashem. The Balei Machshava call it Dinyan Hatsura Liyotzrei. The similarity, the being the like of the created to his creator, being similar to Hashem. This comes up in the Torah in several places. The most well-known, the Gemara in Shabbos, is that when Klal Yisrael crossed the Yam Suf, they saw the greatest revelation of Hashem possible for a human being to see. They saw things that no one has ever seen in history, in terms of seeing what's going on in Shemayim and by Hashem. They saw it, and they said, Zeh Keli, this is my God, Ve'anvehu. And Ve'anvehu means several things, but I'm going to tell you what's relevant for us. Ve'anvehu, Chazal say, stands for Ani Vehu, me and him. Could you imagine they looked at Hashem and they said, I have to be like him. I have to imitate him. I was created to imitate him. And if you were created to imitate Hashem, so that means that if Hashem is a Rachum V'chanon, that means it's your job as well to be a Rachum V'chanon. If Hashem is Erech HaPayim, then it's your job as well to be an Erech HaPayim. And the way that you run your world, you're a world. Your life is a universe. And you are the king of that universe. You are the center of that world. And the way you run your world should be a reflection of the way Hashem runs his. And Hashem has certain attributes with which he runs his world. And we try to run our world with those attributes. Also with kindness and with truth and with all of the midas that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has. But let's think deeper for a second. And then we'll see how unbelievably practical this is. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs his world with many different midas, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu created his world with one midah. Which midah? Chesed. Right? The creation of the world was with Chesed. Hashem may have all different ways of running the world, but the creation of the world was, I want to give. Well, you're also creating a world. You're creating the world that you're the center of. Your world. And that, the Sfarim say, your job is to create a world that's built on, I want to give. Okay, now this is something that's very challenging. If this sounded to you like, oh, nice to retire, nice, okay, great, then you missed it. You have no idea what I'm saying. Okay? This means that we have to transform the way we think about the world. We're talking about getting married. When you're getting married, you walk down the aisle, you say, Hareyat mikudeshes li b'tabaz zu kedas Moshe v'Yisrael. You just did Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'es haaretz. You just created the world. With what did you create the world? How many people create that world because they want pleasure, because they want fun, because they want success, because of what they want? How many people do that? I want to get married because this is what I need and this is what I'm looking for in a girl, and I don't know, I have my list and I don't know if she does everything on the list, and that whole conversation. And what we're being mechadesh today is that our brains need to shift to create our personal world or to create our married world. The first step has to be that the purpose of the creation of that world is to give. is to provide, is to take care, is to embrace. I'm here to take care of someone. This is a very, very difficult thing because we're not born naturally that way. When a baby is born, there's only one thing that the baby cares about, and that is himself. Okay? When you were an infant, all you cared about was yourself. The concept of caring about someone else did not exist. Has any of you who have younger siblings or nieces or nephews thought to yourself, like, sometimes kids are so selfish? Right? It's a natural thing. You ever see a little kid just walk over? This is a constant, common thing. Okay? All right. It happens to adults too, by the way. We're just better at covering it up. Okay? But you have a kid, 2 5-year-olds are playing in a living room. Okay? One of them is playing with a truck, and the other kid walks over to the shelf and pulls out a puzzle. Which kid number one, never occurred to him that he wants to play with a puzzle right now. Okay? What happens as soon as he sees the other kid playing with the puzzle? He walks over and he takes it away and he says, mine. Right? Because this is about me. It's about me. There's no such a thing. If you're teaching kindergarten or first grade or third grade, you're not even able to start teaching the kids that this is about the other person. They're not even mature enough yet for that because naturally we're born worrying about ourselves, taking care of ourselves, thinking about ourselves. Worrying about it. You ever see 2 4-year-olds getting a piece of cake and one of them says, oh, mine is bigger, give it to the other one? You ever see that? No, it doesn't work that way, okay? I can tell you a lot of other stories, but it doesn't work that way. That's not naturally, instinctively the way we are born. And unfortunately, so often we never grow up from that. And what's a bigger piece of cake when you're 4 years old becomes a nicer car when you're 40 years old, and a larger bank account when you're 50 years old, and more prestige when you're 60 years old. And it never changes. You know, there's that phrase they say, the only difference between men and boys is the price of their toys. There's truth to that, you know? There's truth to that. You could see little kids playing, and then you have this older adult screaming at the kid, you should share! And then when he finds out that someone wants to use his office, he blows a gut because he doesn't want to share anything. Right? There's that game that we play that adults are allowed to, because we finesse it much better and we know how to make it look good and we know how to make it seem acceptable. So we could have all these midas of it's all about me while we're telling our kids, you should share, you should give, you should, but they're not even old enough to hear that. The nekuda that's so important to understand is that if a person can reach a point when he's deciding to date, that he could understand that the creation of this world is because he wants to give. And you do want to give. Because if HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us to be like him, that means HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us with the capability of being like him. And I'm going to go out on a ledge over here and say that not only do you have the ability to give, but I'm confident that those guys that get married because they want to give, they want to take care of a girl. It's not about what they get, they want to give. That those guys have much, much, much more satisfying lives. Because when you're using yourself in the way that you know, like the way that we were made to operate, it resonates and it feels right. And we operate, and there's a tremendous amount of, let me call it collateral pleasure that comes about from building a home because I want to give. Okay, this is a huge, huge, huge yesod, and it's worth trying to develop within ourselves that thought. The world is not like this. Okay, even the world of shidduchim in our world is not like this. Someone will walk over to you and will tell you, and there's no choice, we have to operate this way, so what are you looking for? Oh, what am I looking for? Let me think. Let me have a shake and fries. Oh, no, it's not food, it's a woman. Oh, let me tell you what kind of woman I'm looking for. There's not a menu here. You have a tafkid. You have a goal. You, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, put you into this world to create a world. When you think about what you're looking for, don't confuse it as what will give me the most satisfaction, pleasure, and prestige and ego. No, where can I be the most effective in building a world? Because that's what I'm here for. What kind of girl can I take the best care of? And can I grow to expand that world, to raise children that are Ovdei Hashem, and to be able to give to my community and to everyone around me? What kind of girl could be a partner in that mission? That's what I'm looking for. I mean, and it's easy to get lost because the terminology is not that way. We've said in this shiur several times, and we'll get to that when we talk about dating. We've spoke about the idea that for at least one date, go on the date, and the whole date, instead of thinking about is this what I want or I need, think about am I what she needs. Just do it one time. Just to change that perspective, just to have a sense that am I what she needs? Because I'm here to take care of her. And it's incredible. It happens to be incredible. Because when I speak about these topics, I know that there probably are some people in the room that are like, I don't know if I could do that. I just want to get married because I've been waiting my whole life to be able to have a girlfriend, and I want to do that. Yeah, it could be. But what I've discovered is that that's not the majority. What I've discovered is that the majority of guys, when they hear this, it resonates. And deep down, a certain feeling that maybe you didn't even know you had starts to come alive, where you're like, you know what? I do want to take care of someone. Thank you for giving me those words. Yes, I want to take care of someone. That would make me happy. You want to know what I want? I want to take care of someone. I want to make somebody happy. I want to support someone. I want to help someone through the tough times and have someone to honor during the good times. To be able to build a world for the purpose of chesed. This touches every area of life, from running a busy home to the most intimate parts of marriage. And Be'ezer Hashem, over the Shiur, the Tuesday morning Shiur, we'll talk about those different parts. But today I wanted to express that foundation we're here to give. When a couple comes in to speak to me and they're in crisis or they're struggling, I could tell in 2 minutes if they understand that it's bigger than them. This is not just about you. So often couples come in and they're like playing tug of war because each one got married because they wanted the pleasure and the fun, and it was an arrangement. I think this girl is gorgeous and funny and great, so that will give me maximum pleasure. And she thinks I'm handsome and wonderful and understanding, so that will give her maximum pleasure. And then we get married, and all of that is true, but there's other stuff too, And our personalities are complex, and our family histories come out, and so on and so forth. And suddenly, the guy is like, 1 second, of course, I'm not saying the thought process goes like that consciously, but subconsciously, like, I married her for maximum pleasure. I didn't expect that she's going to have to take care of her mother, who has times that she's not doing well, and she has to take care of her. That doesn't give me maximum pleasure, and it creates conflict. I didn't realize that she has this annoying, that she snores. And I don't know, my fantasies, there was never snoring. I never watched a movie and the girl was snoring. It never happened. I don't know, I'm getting really, really annoyed. It's not what I signed up for. Or if she has, they get married and she has some kind of a physical thing. They discover that she has some kind of a condition, some kind of a skin condition or something. You guys know life? Life is like that. Olam Hazeh is like that. And suddenly it becomes like, that's not what I signed up for. But the guy that got married, because he wanted to build a world like Hashem, he wanted to give, it's not that he is such a tzaddik that every challenge to him is just like, he's like the Vilna Gaon. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if my focus was to give, it doesn't hurt so much. It's not so frustrating. Adarabah, so often when I discover your vulnerability, now I have a greater opportunity to give. Now I have a more profound opportunity to give. Does that mean that couples that get started in this way always have an easy time getting along and that everything is easy? Of course not. But that's what I'm saying. When a couple walks into the door, you can tell, did they get married because they wanted to build something where they can support each other? Or did they get married because of what they're going to get out of each other? I used to say this line back in the day when I was dating, that if you're getting married because of what you're going to get out of marriage, you're going to get out of marriage. That's what they used to say. And there's emes to that. I can't say it's 100%, but there is emes to that. The ability of somebody who goes in because he sees himself as his wife's support, the one who takes care of her, it expands him on so many levels. You know, I could sit here from today till tomorrow, and we're going to finish soon, but probably over the year I will give you all these ideas of all kinds of different ways that a person could be supportive of their wife. The little things and the big things. We could talk about tons of details, okay? I believe, my personal thing is, that when a husband is shopping, it should always be on his mind, what can I bring home that will make my wife smile? Something. Trust me. The end of the day, when you file your taxes, you won't notice it. Okay? The extra expense. That you brought home a bar of chocolate or a drink or a salad or whatever it was because she was on your mind. And at the end of the day, when you come home, she gets some kind of a message that you were thinking of her. Sounds obvious, right? I believe that a guy who's out the whole day, who's working and so on and so forth, should take the time in today's technological world, should take the time to text or voice note his wife a few times a day in a loving, supportive way. Not just, I am starving, make sure dinner is ready when I get home. Okay? You know, but in a supportive, loving way that she could tell that he knows what she's up to. You know what I mean by that? In other words, if your wife gets home from work at 4 o'clock, and when she gets home, she gets a voice note from you because you're at work and you're working hard and you don't have time to start have long conversations, but she gets a short voice note from you. I hope you had a great time. I hope, by the way, maybe you left after her. I put a drink in the fridge for you and I'm looking forward to seeing you later. You know what that does to a person? Feels thought about, feels supported. That changes everything. If you have a bunch of little kids at home, by the way, you think you sent a voice note that helped your wife, but the truth is you helped your kids because your wife, after a long day, might not have patience for kids. But when the love of her life sends that little voice note, I'm not saying that she puts on her wedding gown and starts twirling around the house, but it's enough of a chizuk that now she can smile at the kids. Who knows what you could accomplish? Imagine such a little thing. Who knows what you could have. You're coming home to a different home that night. Okay? But the point that I'm making is, you guys could be like, oh wow, these are great ideas, let me write this down. Or you could say, you know what? I don't need to write these ideas down. I just need to remember that I'm here to support her. I need to remember that I'm here because she's the world that I created. That I'm here to give. And if you remember that, you'll think of 1,000 better ideas than I could ever think of. And it'll be fine-tuned and tailored just to her and to you. You need my ideas? Trust me, you don't need my ideas. You just need to go into it and look at this girl as the one who Hashem gave you to support and to love and to take care of. Now it may sound to you, I know I mentioned this before, but I want to reiterate it because it's so important. It may sound to you like, okay, he's talking about a higher madrega. I hope no one's thinking that here. I really hope so. He's talking about a higher level. Maybe some people, they have married on that high level. But for me, I beg you, I plead with you. I'm talking about how to be happy. I'm talking about how to have the most delicious marriage. If you get married for yourself, it will be a years-long tug-of-war of each one of you trying to be happy. And sometimes you'll be on this, if you happen to like the same entertainment, and you like going on the same vacation to the same places, which is a fairy tale, by the way, because that's not what's going to happen, okay? And you happen to agree that both of you love the idea of going to South America on vacation for 2 weeks a year and sitting by a pool, and you both happen to be mechaven, then you'll both have fun for those 2 weeks, because your worlds happen to overlap. But first of all, that's not real life. And second of all, that's not true joy. That's not true pleasure. That's not true satisfaction. You could say it's a higher madrega. I don't know if I'm ready to get married because I want to build. I want to get married because I want to have a good time. I want to have fun. I'm telling you, you're hurting yourself. You're depriving yourself of that fun. You're going to be in constant competition. It's going to be frustrating. And life, by the way, life is wonderful. Hashem's brachas are endless. But life is also complicated. You know, we've had some of these shiurim. There are pregnancies. You know, one day we'll do it again. I gave an hour-long shiur last year about what a pregnancy is like. Fasten your seatbelt, okay? You're not even the ones that are going to be pregnant. Okay? There's childbirth. There's taking care, raising a child. And maybe a child that gets constant ear infections or has colic and doesn't sleep at night. There's all that fun stuff, right? And if your goal in getting married was just this childish goal that just grew up from I want a lollipop to I want a girl, this is going to be constant frustration and pain. But if you get married because you want to give, and you want to build, and you want to support, then it's not just, then you're talking about a life of pleasure. Because even that hard week, even that very, very difficult hard week, that was very frustrating because your wife couldn't sleep the whole week because she had the flu and you had to take care of her the whole week. Or the baby was up every night 5 times a night and you went to work seeing your boss double 2 or 3 versions of him because you can't see straight. Okay? Because even if you have a financial thing and your job is in jeopardy and you're worried about finances, you're still doing your mission. You're still creating that world. You still have the joy that's a higher level of joy, of building something beautiful, of building blocks. Rabbi said, I am not talking to you out of frunkheit here, I promise you. I'm talking to you because I want you to be happy. And happy people are people that build like HaKadosh Baruch Hu builds. Because I want to give. I want to share. I do want to mention, it is important to know, that people that are hurt, people that are trauma survivors, people that are hurt have a harder time with this. Not because they have worse midos, sometimes they have the most spectacular midos, but people that have dealt with trauma sometimes, they're very focused on I have to take care of myself because I've been through so much. And it's a little bit harder for them to be able to build out of themselves and to look outside of themselves because, you know, like, if you can imagine, let's say, even on a physical sense, someone is in an accident, let's say someone's in a car accident. So he's always going to cross the street differently after that, right? So someone who's been hurt, someone who's been in pain, someone who has struggled, has to be careful to be able to understand that there may be sensitivities here, and me coming up, a lot of me coming up, that's not really what this marriage needs, but it's because of my own hurt. And if a person finds themselves in that situation, it's worth examining that and working with that and understanding that so that our wives don't have to carry our trauma. It's very important. You know, people, you don't know, you know, we all sit here together in the amazing yeshiva with the Gemara in front of us, steiging away, and it's beautiful, but all of us carry our whole past with us. And sometimes it's important to be able to know if I want to truly be able to give to a wife, I have to be able to be sensitive to the fact that I may be tugging back a little bit because not because I'm a selfish person, but because I'm a hurt person. And sometimes hurt, nekayt klal ze biyadcha, it's a good cloud to know. Sometimes hurt people come across as selfish, but it's not selfishness, it's pain. It's a very important thing to know. So if you're someone who has dealt with things like that, you may want to be sensitive about that. It may be something you want to talk about. It may be something you want to speak to someone, to speak to a professional about. It could be a very, very valuable tool to know. Baruch Hashem, we have a kvutza of married guys that come back to this shiur, And in a way, sometimes they get more from it than the single guys because they know what I'm talking about. Because once you experience marriage, so then, like, all of these things that I say are like, yeah, it's true. He's not lying, it's true. But the overwhelming majority of the room is guys that are single, and you're hearing me talk about building because you want to give and not building just because of what you want to take. And you may be wondering, like, in theory that's nice, but what do I do now? Right now we're going to go down to the Beis Medrash. Rosh Shiur is going to give a Shiur Klali. What could I do today? Because, as a very wise woman once told me, when you're single, it's easy to get along with your shtender. It was a shtender yeshiva, But it's easy to get along with your shtender. And the truth is, if you think about it, as much as we have to interact with other people, we really can, single life really can successfully be very selfish. You don't like your roommates, you switch your room. Once you're married, if you don't like your roommate, you got a problem. Okay? You don't like the food, get other food. Once you're married, if you don't like the food, that's complicated. Okay? And so many other things. Your chavrusa didn't work out from last year? Yeah, I'm not learning with him anymore. Yeah, that doesn't work when you're married and the person you spend time with, you're having a hard time with. There, you have to be able to give and build and work and examine. And, right, there's something about single life that lends itself to selfishness, no? It does. It lends itself to selfishness. And we live in a world of choices also, right? And it used to be in the when you had a yeshiva serving lunch. So this may come as a shock to you, but there was one lunch that was served to everyone. And if you didn't like lunch that day, you ate it anyway, because that was for lunch. But today, either guys are in their dorms making gourmet meals, healthy of course, or you're upstairs choosing which of 7 meals you want. I'm just giving you a mashal of how the world has changed. Everything is fine-tuned to exactly what we want. It's just the world we live in. Exactly what works for us, exactly what we want. And you may wonder, like, what's the hope that I'm going to be able to build a marriage that's selfless if, with no fault of my own, I'm living a very selfish life? I'm doing what I want to do for myself so I could be successful because of me. Right? Isn't that true? And there's nothing wrong. Like, what should you do? What should you do? Should you quit yeshiva and just go and start helping people? Like, what should you do? Your job now is to build yourself. So I want to point out that there is an avodah that you can do now, married or single, that you can do now to start to try to build this midah. The first thing is to just be aware when we're talking to people and interacting with people, more so with family, but also with friends, of how much we make ourselves the center of attention. My brother, I think I've said this to you before, but my brother has this line that he says, that's the biggest, most truth. My brother's a very funny guy, but he says, okay, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me? So, like, and it's funny, but it's not even so funny. We're like that sometimes, the guy that you talk to, and you say to him, yeah, I'm going on vacation to whatever. And he goes, oh, and I'm going on vacation. Like, you didn't even finish talking about, you know what I mean? Like, everything is really just a heichatimtza to talk about himself. I'm not criticizing. I'm pointing out, it's a childishness. But I'm pointing out that even at this stage of our lives, we could become aware that there's somebody else. A chavrusa comes in, you sitting by Seder, he's a few minutes late, he walks in, goes, I'm so tired, I was up half the night, there was something going on in my house. So many of us just go, okay, let's start the Gemara. The guy just said something was going on. Take a minute. Okay, he may not want to talk about it. Take a minute. Say, are you okay? Sorry to hear that. Do you need a few minutes? Just something that shows a sensitivity. Someone else said something. We miss it sometimes. We're so wrapped up in ourselves that we miss it on the other person sometimes. And with our families, it happens like that also. Oftentimes, we'll come home to our family, single guys I'm talking about. We'll come home and we just with just like a hurricane running through the house, and people could be reaching out to us and we're not noticing. We're so wrapped up in ourselves that we're not noticing. If you want to have a successful marriage, start noticing today. When you call your mother to say hi, which is a very nice thing to do, don't some guys don't talk when they call their mothers, and their mothers have to be like, how's yeshiva? What's going on? Good. Okay. You started college? No. Okay. Do you know who your teachers are going to be? I think so. Anything you want to say? Some guys are like that, like not communicating. But I'm assuming by this age, most of the time, we've learned how to have normal conversation, and then we flip the other way around. When you hang up the phone after you speak to your mother, do you have any idea what her day was like? What she did that day? Or was it just like, first of all, you forgot to send me A, B, and C. Second of all, my credit card's reaching its limit, please raise the credit card. And third of all, when I get home, make sure you have A, B, and C in the house. Sometimes we just end up having that kind of relationship. Okay, mothers get it. But you are holding by the beginning of building a world. Go build a world by learning how to be conscious that there are other people. Learning how to be sensitive to the fact that there are other people. Not to be oblivious. To recognize the world around you. To see the people. Reb Volba has, in his second Chelek Alei Shur, and I'm going to end with this point, Reb Volba has different vadim about chesed. Brilliant, beautiful vadim about chesed. But he says there that there's an avodah that a person could do, and this is something for us to do, especially with our family members, maybe with our friends, okay? And those of you that are married, you could think about it even now about your wives. He says, take a look at the people around you and ask yourself this question. What does he need? We don't ask ourselves that. What does he need? You have a chavrusa? What does he need? Just change the focus of your mind that it's not just about, is he a good charusa for me? What does he need? And whether you could do it or not is a separate thing. I'm talking about just the exercise of it. Just the fact that I could speak to someone every day for years and never once think to myself, but what does he need? Just that mind change to be able to think about the other person. What does he need? You may find your chesed developing then, because it may be something that you may think, what does he need? He needs a friend. This guy needs a friend. I never thought of that before, but I just realized I never see him hanging out with guys. And you say, hey, you want to go to lunch? And suddenly you became this engine of chesed. But I'm not even pushing you to do that. I'm just pushing you to think about your parents. What do they need? Think about your siblings. What do they need? Many of you have a sister at home. What does she need? And some of you, even now, as I'm saying it, you're thinking to yourself, what does she need? What do you mean? It even takes a minute to chap what I'm saying. We just never think like that. She's my sister. What does she need? I think she needs to annoy me. What do you mean, what does she need? No, what does she need? She's a teenager. She's in high school. She's whatever. She's in college. Whatever it is. She's married. What does she need? What are her needs? And just to train ourselves to see other people in the sense of what their tzrachim are, can be an incredibly valuable tool once you get married. And I'm just going to end again with what I said already twice in the shmooze. I promise you that what I am describing to you is not a frumkeit, it's the ingredients of a joyful marriage. I promise you that if you take it on to live for her, to give to her, to support her, and to provide her, you will be the happiest guy in shul. I promise you. Because when a person is in the matzav haruach of being a noisein, that's when he feels himself the best. That's when a person is in top operating condition. And the simcha and the joy of providing is something that has nothing that equals it in this world. So, Be'ezra Hashem will continue next time. My bracha to all of you is that you should be able to open up your world, to be able to recognize that you're here to build something in the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu builds it, which is to create in a selfless way. Yashikayach.